Good evening and welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Hello, thanks very much for your company. Here are tonight's headlines.
Anger in the Pennines as one local council says it'll be gritting fewer roads this winter to save money.
They need to grit these roads so that people can get out and about, because if not, then there's going to be some claims put in here because people are going to fall, there's going to be crashes.
Well, meanwhile, Kerry will have the latest on warnings for snow tonight.
Yes, cold for all this week, frost and ice for many, and some snowfall for some. All the detail a little later on.
Also tonight, protecting their livelihoods. Farmers prepare to protest over government tax reforms.
As farmers, we're custodians of the landscape. We're looking after it. We never intend to sell it because we want it to be farmed and producing food for the next generations. And to put that at risk, to me, seems completely crazy.
Legends of the rugby world come together for a unique game honouring Rob Burrow to raise money for MND research.
Kings of England forever.
And Richard III, in his own words, as he speaks from beyond the grave thanks to state-of-the-art technology. Good evening. As we brace ourselves for the first proper snow of the autumn-winter season, some residents of the Pennines say they've been abandoned by their local council, which is to cut back on gritting roads to save money.
Yes, residents say Calderdale Council is putting drivers and pedestrians at risk, and they've called on the local authority to reconsider.
Now, the new rules won't be introduced until after tonight's freeze, but some people fear that they won't be able to leave their home during the next spell of wintry weather. Katie Oscroft reports.
Andrew Tagg cycles to work on one of the steepest roads in this area. But for the winter months, Calderdale Council says it will no longer grit Brackenbed Lane.
Without gritting it, it'll be a death trap. There's no way this road can be safe if it isn't gritted. And it's worse actually not when it snows, it's when people come down and it's got black ice on. You'll have cars all over the place. I think we already see issues even when it's gritted, cars sliding. The problem is if people enter the road at the top and it's icy, by the time they're committed, what happens then?
I was quite annoyed, really.
Michelle Porshinsky starts work early and often collects children from nearby schools. But some of the roads on her route will have gritting withdrawn.
People are going to end up falling, there's going to end up being cars sliding down and crashing. It's going to be absolutely terrible. There's going to be some claims put in here because people are going to fall, there's going to be crashes. You know, I just don't know who'll come up with the idea, let's grit these streets, but we're not gritting those streets.
A cold snap often brings snow on the roads here. Gritters work through the night if the forecast could impact rush hour. Well, Calderdale Council says this is all about trying to trim £300,000 off its winter services budget. It says it's gritting the areas where it's needed the most, but it's simply not possible to cover every street. The council says that some of the roads affected will have grit bins installed. It also says residents should consider using public transport or postponing a trip until the weather improves. Their suggestions cut no ice with Andrew and Michelle.
Can't really postpone going to work because you've got to go to work, and to use the bus then I'd have to walk down, so I'd end up falling.
People need the cars, need to be able to cycle to work like I do, to say, well, they can do other things. Well, no, they can't. They've got jobs to go to. Kids have to go to school. That's not acceptable.
The council says gritting costs £1.7 million in a typical year, but there are fears that from December the 1st, the new policy could mean just getting to work could end up like this, particularly on hills like these. Katie Oscroft, ITV News, Halifax.
Yes, well, Kerry joins us in the studio now. It seems quite early to be gritting this time in November.
Yeah, our snowfall last year was at the end. Our first snowfall was at I think 28th to the 30th of November 2023, and it's the temperatures actually that we've got this week. They're 5 degrees lower than we'd expect them to be, and then add on a wind chill, it's absolutely freezing. If I can just show you this chart, very cold air mass this week. It's basically coming in from the Arctic all the way down. So the easy bit that I can tell you is that it's going to be bitterly cold for all. Widespread hard frost, particularly tomorrow night actually. Spells of lovely blue sky and sunshine, but significant wind chill with coastal showers, which might bring a few showers in. The tricky bit, of course, is the warning area that we've got tonight. So we've got a warning in place from 7 o'clock this evening until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's a blanket yellow warning for snow and ice. So let me show you what's happening. We've basically got an area of rain that's working its way in from the southwest. It has been doing over the last hour or so. It hits the colder air. And like we say many times over winter, it turns to sleet and snow. And it's all about elevation. So the higher up you are, the more likely you are to get the heavier snow that, because it's coming in overnight tonight, will last for longer. So if you just think like Leeds city centre's, 63 metres above sea level, but you don't have to go too far
I'm glad you
west.
knew that.
I've done my research. But you don't have to go too far west to go up to Ilkley Moor, and it's 340 metres.
Yeah.
So basically, the higher up you are, the more likely you are to have a bit of disruption. All I want to say, though, is that by tomorrow morning at about 8 a.m, it's all kind of cleared, so it will be beautiful but bitterly cold. So if you can just delay your journey tomorrow morning just by a few hours, it will make a massive difference to the rush hour tomorrow morning, because it's all coming overnight.
It
so
could be tricky.
some of you will be opening those windows tomorrow morning and going, oh, yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay then, it is going to change overnight. Thank you for that advice.
You're welcome.
Well, next, there's mounting fury from the region's farmers tonight over tax changes which they say could force smaller family firms out of business.
The Chancellor announced in last month's budget that those inheriting agricultural assets like land worth more than £1 million would have to pay 20% tax on them from April 2026.
Well, now hundreds of farmers are preparing to travel to Westminster to join a protest against those plans, as Sarah Clark reports.
The Wilsons have farmed on this landscape near Burrow Bridge for nearly a century. Spread across 600 acres, the family have their work cut out and say they're feeling the pressure over government plans to change inheritance rules for farmers.
I'm genuinely so worried, and this is definitely the most worrying thing that I've faced in my farming career, but looking to previous generations and talking to them, for them it's also the most worrying thing that they've faced. And as farmers, we're custodians of the landscape, we're looking after it. We never intend to sell it because we want it to be farmed and producing food for the next generations, and to put that at risk, to me, seems completely crazy.
Rebecca, who's the 5th generation to work here, always felt agriculture was part of her future, but says this will put her family and so many others under pressure.
For a farm like ours, even when we use the personal allowances available, we could still be faced with a £1 million inheritance tax bill. These assets that you see around us are valuable, but ultimately to release that value we would have to liquidate and sell parts of the business to pay the inheritance tax bill.
There's a lot of stress in farming and agriculture at the moment without this. So yeah, it's going to be a massive problem, and it's going to stop farmers investing in their farm because they know they just have to pay a large tax bill. Agriculture is 95% family farms. And it's not just the farms that are being affected, it's the allied industries around it.
The government told us around 500 claims each year will be impacted, and farm-owning couples can pass on up to £3 million without paying any inheritance tax. This is a fair and balanced approach.
These changes, I would say, will be pushing up the cost of food for consumers. We're going to have to look to recoup the cost from somewhere because, quite simply, we are price takers. We cannot sell our goods at the moment for a price which covers the cost of production.
Rebecca, along with thousands of other farmers, will be taking their case to the capital tomorrow, protesting over the plans in the hope it will give food for thought for those in charge. Sarah Clark, ITV News in Boroughbridge.
Well, some more of the day's news now, and the mystery surrounding the unsolved killing of a man 50 years ago took another twist today when it was revealed the victim had been buried, then dug up and reburied elsewhere in farmland where his remains were finally found. In 1967, Alfred Swinscoe, a father of 6 from Pinxton in Derbyshire, disappeared after going for a drink in a pub. That is, until last year when his skeleton was unearthed by chance. Today, a coroner ruled that he'd been unlawfully killed. Police identified 2 suspects for murder, but both have since died.
An 18-year-old woman who was arrested after a crash on the M62 following a police chase has been released under investigation. A stolen white Toyota Corolla, which had failed to stop for police, hit a Peugeot on the westbound carriageway of the motorway on Saturday afternoon, causing major delays. The driver of the Peugeot remains in hospital with serious injuries. Two 17-year-old girls and a 19-year-old woman were also arrested on suspicion of theft of a vehicle.
Two former Girl Guide volunteers in Leeds who lived the high life spending thousands on luxuries, clothes and home improvements have been jailed for defrauding the taxpayer of almost £500,000. Sisters Sarah and Jean Barnbrook ran Girl Guide groups in Crossgates and Manston using the government's gift aid scheme, which allows charities to reclaim 25% of any donations made. Sarah received almost £450,000 in gift repayments over 6 years from non-existent donations. The pair have been jailed for a combined total of more than 5 years.
Bus fares in West Yorkshire will stay at £2 until the end of March. That's despite an increase in the national cap from the new year. Ministers confirmed last month that fares will go up to £3 nationally in January. But the West Yorkshire Mayor, Tracy Brabin, says government investment of £36 million will allow West Yorkshire to keep the £2 fare until the end of March.
We're watching calendar, still to come on the programme this evening. Rugby League and Union join together for a hybrid game to raise money for motor neurone disease charities.
And the King's Speech. Hear Richard III's real voice as it's recreated with a Yorkshire accent.
Well, next, it's claimed that Yorkshire is now a hotspot for suspected illegal hunting, among the top 5 areas in the country for reported incidents last year. That's according to one animal welfare charity.
It's 20 years, of course, since fox hunting was outlawed, and Labour recently pledged to ban trail hunting. Now, that's a method used by hunts since the ban, with hounds following a pre-laid scent rather than following a live fox.
Well, hunts say the method is entirely legal, while wildlife campaigners have long claimed that it is a sham. Well, Nick Smith has been out with hunt saboteurs who monitor hunting groups up and down the country.
It's the start of the winter hunting season, and I've joined hunt saboteurs in their patrol vehicle, observing if this hunting party is adhering to the letter of the law and only following a trail. But as we turn into a village, a fox is seen dashing around a housing estate, with pursuing hounds emerging seconds later. The saboteurs spring to action to try and call the hounds off.
So we see a fox running, clearly looking petrified, across the road and into a housing estate, which was going to be followed by the hounds, which we had to stop. How is that not hunting, and how is that acceptable? Then we use the spray, which masks the scents, and then the whip crack, which mimics what the hunts do to send the hounds back. So by doing this, we buy the fox seconds, if not minutes of time, which can mean the difference between life and death. We're also stopping the hounds from getting hit by cars.
If SABs weren't there, then the hounds would have gone onto the housing estate, where there's nowhere for the fox to hide. They would have killed it.
If we do see changes to the Hunting Act and a ban on trail hunting, what does that legislation need to look like to kind of stop illegal hunting once and for all?
Trail hunting is a lie, it doesn't exist, it is a smokescreen to persecute our wildlife. This basically is out of control. It needs a watertight, complete ban where they cannot use any exemptions to get round it. It needs to just stop.
The hunt involved say they partake in lawful trail hunting and hound exercise. On this occasion, 2 hounds had strayed from the main pack whilst they were conducting hound exercise. These hounds were retrieved as soon as professional hunt staff were made aware they were no longer with the pack. The League Against Cruel Sports tells me out of the hunts they've monitored during the autumn of this year, around 40% had evidence of suspected illegal practices.
So hunting in the Yorkshire region itself is always prolific. Our figures time and again have Yorkshire and surrounding counties coming quite high in our tables of illegal hunting reports made to the League. In the Yorkshire region totally, we've seen 10 reports relating to what we call hunt havoc. It covers any behaviour from the hunt that points to them not following a pre-laid trail, which points to suspected illegal hunting.
The government has pledged to ban trail hunting within this election cycle, but no timetable has been announced yet. Pro-hunting groups reject claims that it is used as a smokescreen for hounds to keep pursuing foxes.
They're on the road.
And say incidents like the one I witnessed of hounds running off the trail are rare.
Can you see why politicians might believe there is a justification in banning trail hunting if these kind of incidents do occasionally occur?
No. Whatever you do, wherever you go, you will find that accidents happen. You know, people go in their cars and they break the speed limit. You don't ban an activity because some people break the rules. Since the hunting ban came in, there have been 25 or so convictions against registered packs of hounds.
There is a perception that hunts are going out and breaking the law, and it's our job to try and demonstrate that that's not the case. The hunting community will make sure that there is a future for these hounds. We've got future generations that we need to ensure that they can continue to follow packs of hounds across the countryside.
For those on either side of this debate, the one thing they are all seeking is clarity on what a trail hunting ban would really mean, as hunting parties fight for their survival, while those dedicated to wildlife protection lobby to see an end of this pursuit once and for all.
Yes, and I wonder what you think about this. Well, earlier I spoke to Nick, who was in our Birmingham newsroom, and asked him just how difficult hunting is to police under the current law.
Well, it can actually be very difficult. Now, what I will say firstly is that trail hunting, if followed to the absolute letter of the law, shouldn't pose any risk to wildlife or the wider public at large. Now, anti-hunt campaign groups say evidence of bad practice is out there in many videos posted online by saboteur groups, and this can range from hunt havoc, an example of which you saw in your piece there, with hounds kind of running around in a village, to actual footage of foxes being killed or harmed. The problem is, though, for police is that it's actually very difficult to resource, given it requires quite constant surveillance. So the national guidance is that they don't actively monitor hunts and instead rely on evidence provided by the public. Now, one of the lead police officers responsible for overseeing fox hunting crime on the National Police Chiefs Council, Superintendent Matt Longman, told a policing event that current laws were unworkable and that hunts were frequently trailed in fox habitats, with hounds trained to locate and kill them, and that there were many loopholes which can see people evade prosecution. Now, anti-hunt campaign groups also say that those found guilty are actually only fined a few £100s, so they're calling for custodial sentences to act as a real deterrent. Now, the Department for Food, Environment and Rural Affairs have told me we will ban trail hunting that allows for illegal hunting of foxes, deer and hares, setting out the next steps in due course.
It's Nick Smith speaking to me earlier.
OK, the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Here's a look at what is happening with Charlene White.
Coming up, all eyes on Russia's response as Joe Biden clears Ukraine to use American long-range missiles inside Russia for the first time. Masked burglars infiltrate the grounds of Windsor Castle Estate. And Harry Kane gives his verdict on the controversial statue of the star 5 years after it was finished. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
But first, time for some sport now, and a special rugby match, of course, took place at Headingley.
Yes, Arif joins us in the studio, and Arif, some legends of the rugby world pulled on the boots for a good cause yesterday.
Yeah, they did, John. Stars from both the Rugby League world and the Rugby Union world came together for a special hybrid game, and it was all to raise money for motor neurone disease charities. The match was one of the final projects Rob Burrow worked on before he died from the disease in June. I was one of the 10,000 that were up at Headingley yesterday afternoon. The world of rugby united in the battle against motor neuron disease. Stars from the past of both Rugby League and the Rugby Union pulled on their boots once again for this special event.
You get a stadium full of people here for one reason, which is like unity, togetherness. There's no separation between sports or races or other, whatever people are going through. I'm all in for that. And then you're going to get a great day with a lot of good energy in one place, so it's awesome.
The game is one of the final projects Rob Burrow worked on before he died in June. An idea he had with the former rugby union player Ed Slater. Two men bonded in their battle with MND.
If we can shine a light on MND and do it whilst we're playing a sport that we all love, that people can enjoy, that's a great combination.
Just as their dad had done for 16 years, Rob's daughters Macy and Maya dazzled the Headingley crowd as they performed a pre-match dance routine. Youngest son Jackson was barely 1 when Rob was diagnosed in 2019. As he delivered the match ball, the 5-year-old is growing up to look more and more like his father. 10,000 fans came out to show their support. Many know firsthand how cruel this disease can be.
I'm a Rhinos fan, big Rob fan, but also a close friend at work who's been just diagnosed with MND. So it's important. It's got to be a regular end of season game, mid-season game, whatever. It's got to be a regular thing.
They're just all putting their bodies behind it, aren't they? And it looks like they're having fun out there. And like I say, yeah, for a brilliant cause as well. So great.
The game was played in great spirit. The result immaterial. The goal here to raise much-needed funds and awareness.
We talk about Rob every day. Me and all his former teammates talk about him, celebrate the impact that he had on our sport, but the wider community, the MND community, beautiful as it is, and then, you know, the footprint he's left is, you know, is where Ed and the people that aren't and don't have the profile, you know, they're there and they know that people are talking more about MND than ever before.
And he'd be looking down. What would he be thinking? Would he be laughing? Would he be smiling?
He'd be laughing, he'd be happy that we've won, he'd be laughing at me thinking, what are you doing, you silly old fool? So I'm thinking that myself at the minute.
We're carrying Rob's legacy, Doddy's legacy and Ed's legacy and, you know, Marcus Stewart and all the people that's gone to MND and any future people that get it. I hope there's nobody gets it, but we'll carry it on.
At the end, the players and Rob's family gathered on the pitch as a montage of Rob, Ed and Doddy Weir played on the big screen.
Must have been amazing to be there.
It was special, yeah, definitely was.
Yeah. So we've got some league football as well, haven't we?
Yeah, there was international break, but there was still some league games. 4 of them in total, Lara. Only 3 of them, though, ended up in draws. The only winner from our region were Harrogate Town. Dean Cornelius drilled in a 91st minute winner against Chesterfield to end a 3-match losing run. 2-1, the final score at the Exercise Stadium. And finally, from me, the Sheffield Steelers warmed up for their Champions League second leg tomorrow with victory in Fife last night. And we'll be in Berlin tomorrow along with 500 fans ahead of their biggest game in the Steelers' history. They trail Eisbären Berlin 5-3 from the first leg in their last 16 tie.
Knowing that they've come this far and we get to come out and join them with it, it's something I've looked forward to since we were in the CHL last time, and obviously we didn't get this chance last time, so yeah, it's exciting.
Just to be able to support them somewhere different and just scream and cheer for them, like, it's incredible. Like, they know we're there, but they just love it and we love them.
Well, that's all you spoke for me, but just to say we will be reporting from Berlin tomorrow. So good luck to the Steelers.
Looking forward to seeing
it'll be a good
that.
one.
Yeah, that'll be good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Probably the right weather for it as well. Now, over the years, we've come to expect our kings and queens to speak in a certain way. Posh, basically, but it turns out that King Richard III might have sounded a little bit more like, well, the rest of us humble commoners. I'm looking at you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, his voice, or at least something close to it, has been recreated for the very first time since his death. And his death, of course, was more than 500 years ago. And it seems that, well, he has something of a Yorkshire twang.
Well, the experts, there are experts, they came up with it and they've presented Richard to an audience for the first time at York Theatre Royal, and they hope that people will see a gentler side to a king who's often accused of being a villain, murdering the princes in the Tower. That was the accusation, wasn't it? Michael Billington has been investigating.
A 15th century king
is so great,
virtually brought back to life using 21st century technology.
We're pretty confident in what he looked like and in what he wore and how he wore his hair because of the paintings. And the voice team will tell you how confident they are in the voice that we've projected for him.
After his face was digitally reconstructed a decade ago, a team of experts have now given Richard III a voice. And rather than speaking the Queen's English,
having great care,
Richard, it seems, was a bit more Yorkshire.
Is so great.
So great. That's
So great. We definitely agreed on there being a northern influence because he spent a lot of his time in the north, in Yorkshire, and it was very special to him. And so we really have tried to give it a little bit of that flavour. It's not completely northern, it's not a northern sound necessarily, but it has influences that you should be able to hear in it because that's likely that he would have had that sound. And that's something we can work out.
After years of research, voice coaches and linguistics experts now think this
we should take as an example
is likely to be the closest possible resemblance to Richard's own voice.
My role was particularly to go and look at his character, look at his personality. And this is really important because your character and your personality, it affects the way that you speak. It affects the tone of your voice. So that was all being given to Thomas the actor so that he could bring all of this evidence-based material to bear for Richard's voice.
Put yourself in mind of King Richard. So we're listening to make sure you've got all your voice, you've got all your range.
It's really interesting. I feel I've learned more about the real man, a man that lived and breathed. And I don't know if you could fast forward or go through time, what on earth would he think?
The final king of the House of York, Richard was laid to rest for a second time after his remains were discovered under a council car park in Leicester in 2012.
Having great care.
And now the team are hoping to present a friendlier face to the public than the murderous monster he's made out to be, here addressing a theatre audience in York in his first public speech in over 500 years.
I kind of think, yeah, in my opinion, from all the work I've done, you were maligned. You're not such a bad guy after all.
It was very, very emotional, very, tear-jerking. Haunting in a good way, I would say. Absolutely it was, yeah.
Well, I just was so touched by it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
So after centuries of being portrayed as a villain, now Richard III can, quite literally, speak for himself.
Kings of England, forever.
Michael Billington, ITV News in York.
It's very clever how they know how he actually spoke. I would have thought he'd sound a bit gruffer, maybe.
A bit more Yorkshire.
a bit more Yorkshire, a bit older as well.
Also, he was found in the car park. Would he not have been saying, has my ticket run out?
Yeah, could have done. I don't think they paid for parking those days.
Which app? Discuss. Here's Kerry with the snowy weather.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yes, it might be mid-November, but it's going to feel more like winter over the next few days. Already scraping the windscreen first thing this morning in Derbyshire. Top cliff last night, -6 Celsius. And many of you seeing a halo around the sun this morning with that milky high cloud pushing in from the southwest ahead of what's happening overnight tonight. So yes, it's bitterly cold this week. Snow and ice certainly a risk during the course of tonight and tomorrow morning, and some strong winds giving a significant wind chill out towards the coast with continued coastal showers over the next few days. It's this area of low pressure that knocks into the cold air overnight tonight, but it does move southwards very quickly tomorrow morning, and then we're just left with that Arctic flow. Yes, some lovely blue sky inland and just a few coastal showers. If they make their way inland, will be wintry, definitely wintry out there overnight tonight. A mixture of rain at the coast, sleet and snow. At lower levels, a few centimetres, but a few more than that. Certainly over the North York Moors, over the Dales, the Pennines, and especially the Peak District, we think, where that snow will continue at least into the first part of tomorrow morning. So this was the snowfall last November. It happened later in the month, but some of us will be waking up to a wintry start first thing in the morning. Many of the major roads will soon clear, we hope, and a good dollop of sunshine. The blue you can see on the map indicating frosty conditions for much of the day over higher ground. A few coastal showers and definitely feeling chilly and quite blustery, that wind chill out towards the coast. A widespread frost tomorrow night into the start of Wednesday. So some icy stretches possible, but again, a lovely dollop of sunshine, a few coastal showers likely. And we're hoping it stays the same, mostly dry and bright, but bitterly cold for the rest of the working week.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go, wrap up warm and stay indoors just for a few more hours tomorrow.
Yeah, and I guess if you are out on the roads, take care.
And leave extra time, yeah.
That's it for now. I'm back just after 11. Charlene White is next with your national news. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.